Hey everybody, welcome back to the Renaissance Woodworker. It's time for another Workbench Q&A. So I have talked several times in the past about how much I really enjoy working with these new easy wood tools, turning tools. And, I've gotten a few questions from listeners and watchers of the podcast about the tools and kind of which one should I go with first, and just some specific details that I might be able to answer them after working with them for a little bit, but I figured, why not go straight to the source? So I contacted Craig Jackson, who is the president and founder and inventor of the Easy Wood Tools, and I wanted to see if he would be able to take some time to talk with me about it. Sure enough, Craig's just one of the nicest guys you've ever met, grabbed a little bit of Skype time with me, and we talked about the story that is Easy Wood Tools. Check it out. So how did this whole thing start?
Okay. You want the full story?
Please.
All right, let's do it. Dad started a machine shop in the backyard when I was about 14. So my first job, we did some work for a big aluminum plant, and they had a smelter. So I sharpened jackhammer bits for the first summer. And then we made weightlifting equipment. I did all the sawing and welding, and I drilled the holes in the weight stacks. Ended up moving the shop to town, and I went and did my apprenticeship through the vocational school, and then another machine shop. And I bought back into what shop my dad used to own, and we were a pretty small welding and machine shop, so I was exposed to all types of industry. I mean, we worked on lumber mill stuff, did work for General Electric, Toyota, Chair Company, everything you can imagine, and ended up getting my degree in machine tool technology through Western Kentucky University and then the Owensboro Community College, and taught 7 years there at the community college, machine tool technology. But I just have touched on all types of cutting a man could possibly be involved in. I've made molds, I've made dies, I've ran machine shops, I've owned machine shops, I've taught machine shop, and then I've moved up through the ranks there, production manager, and then a process improvement manager. They sent me over to the Sweden factories and all that. So I learned a lot about manufacturing processes,
right,
and how to really measure those processes and how to set them up for they're good for the workers, good for the company. I've got all the skills. I've been trained in the skills. I've learned skills the hard way. But now to the wood turning part. Wife and I were shopping one day over in Evansville, Indiana, and she needed some shoes. I didn't need no shoes. Right next door was a woodcraft store. Never heard of woodcraft in my life. So I stumbled in there, and hey, look, that's pretty cool stuff. Never done any woodworking to say. I made fixtures for woodworking equipment.
Right.
And I made woodworking, but I never did the woodwork. So I stumbled on a book by Malcolm Tibbetts, Segmented Wood Turning.
Mm-hmm.
I picked it up, and I was like, oh, wow, that doesn't look like something everybody can do. I'm sure my skill set, I can do this and make other people wish they could be me,
Right.
That's what we all want to feel like. But anyway, I got that book home. I was like, yeah, okay, I'm going to jump into this. And I had a shop out back. I wasn't really doing anything with it, so I bought a little mini lathe. And I bought the little mini set of turning tools. They're like 2 inches longer than your hand.
Right.
And I cut a plum tree down in the backyard, and I made a bowl, just a regular solid bowl. And my family, my in-laws, and I was like, oh, wow, boy, look what Craig made. And that feels good. So made a few more bowls out of that tree and just kind of fought it the whole time. I went on this journey. What tools do I use? What sharpening system do I use? You ask 10 people and you get 12 answers.
Yeah.
And I bought the books, I bought the videos, and I just didn't feel like I was progressing any. But anyway, I kept using those tools for a couple of years, bought the big Powermatic lathe, and had a big old chunk of walnut from a 150-year-old walnut tree that guy gave me. He gave me the whole tree. I still got some of those bowls. Man, they're beautiful. I love wood. But I got to turn on this walnut blank, and I couldn't even make a cut across the whole thing without getting a dull tool. So I had 3 bowl gouges sharpened up, and it took all 3 of them to make one cut.
Wow.
I go sharpen all of them. Yeah, it was nasty. So I started playing around. Why not use carbide? crap, they use carbide on table saw blades, router bits, bandsaw blades, everything in the woodworking business except wood turning.
Yep.
And so I looked out there, and there were a few, well, not few, I think there was 2 companies out there that had made carbide insert turning tools.
Right.
But I didn't agree with the way that they had applied the physics. So just kind of took a step back at it and ended up making a tool for myself. I found a metalworking cutter that I sharpened up, and I got it the way I wanted it. And it did okay, but it wasn't exactly the right grade of carbide. So I'd done a lot of metallurgy teaching in school, so I knew a little bit about what composition that carbide needed to be. A lot of people think carbide's carbide. That's like thinking wood's wood.
I was going to say, there's different kinds of carbide?
Oh, buddy, it's a science. I'm telling you. That's something I don't think people appreciate what we've done here. But anyway, I mean, we've got our own recipe. We've got, and let alone the grade of carbide, how you sharpen it. How you grind it and bring that edge into keenness is a science all by itself. But so anyway, I played with some carbide, and I was able to cut the wood. It didn't cut very clean, but I got it down to where I could finish it up with my bow guys. But it just proved to me that there's nothing wrong with using carbide for wood turning. So ended up developing, you know, it never made sense to me why in wood turning people used round edges to do the bulk of their material removal.
Yeah.
You know, a straight edge is much more efficient. And you know, a straight line is the shortest distance between 2 points, period.
Sure.
So I developed my first tool, had the straighter edges on it, the easy rougher, and it made no sense to me to leave it up to the user as to how to present that tool. So I designed them to be used flat and level, and you know, obviously the edge that you can rotate 3 times technically.
Right.
And I wanted to cut in all directions without having to change the presentation angle of the tool. But anyway, so our first carbide was okay, and we continually perfected that. And, you know, I didn't get a lot of notice from the carbide manufacturer that I was using at the time because, crap, we weren't buying very many of them.
Right.
Well, now we do. You know, we're his biggest customer, and we've just kind of grown together with this. You know, he's learned a lot about carbide, and I have too. He actually didn't even make any carbide for the woodworking industry until I came along. So anyway, we've both grown off of that. And then, so anyway, we made our first tool, and we had a 1-year exclusive with Craft Supply to sell that tool. And customers like, heck, man, that thing works good. How about a smaller one? How about one with a round cutter? How about one with a diamond or a cutter that I can do small beads and coves?
Right.
How about a hollow one tool? Really, we just listen to our customers.
Sure.
Now, we don't, every time a customer calls and asks for a tool, we don't make that tool. But collectively, yeah, you know, your customers will tell you what they want.
Sure.
Just listen.
Well,
so,
you know, I think the brilliance to that whole thing is that, as you said earlier, kind of not leaving it up to the user to guess the presentation. Because I had one of those carbide, I can't even remember who the manufacturer was, one of those carbide tools. And I remember having to read the instructions like 3 times to figure out exactly. It was like a ring. I think it was a hollowing tool. It was like a ring hollower. And it was made out of carbide. And the instructions did not make sense how I was supposed to present this thing to the work. And no matter what I did, it wasn't coming out. And then every now and then you'd kind of hit this tiny, like, you know, 0.5 millimeter wide presentation spot where suddenly the shavings start, you know, and you know when it's working, when you see those shavings flowing, you know that it's cutting right. But it was like, if I like took a breath, suddenly everything went all out of whack. And it was so frustrating because I remember thinking, okay, great, carbide. I don't have to worry about sharpening this. This is going to be able to cut it much, much easier. And, you know, it was actually more difficult. I actually set the thing aside and went back to a traditional high-speed steel tool at that point. And I stayed away from carbide altogether until, you know, I bought the Easy Rougher several years ago. So, you know, I guess I'll say, thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome, absolutely. Well, a lot of people think our tools work because they're carbide. All that the carbide does is give you longer edge life.
Right.
You know, I can make my cutters out of high-speed steel, or any other cutting edge material, and they would still perform just as well, but only for a few minutes.
Right. Yeah, it's that locking in that geometry and the presentation angle that really does it.
It's all that coming together. It's the shape of our handle, it's the balance of the tool. I don't think so on one or two of our hollowers, but most of our tools, you can hold your finger right in the middle and the tool will balance.
Right.
So there's some balance. They got the grip point for you to push on to reduce grip pressure. It's a system, and it's not just a carbide tool.
Right.
So
Well,
I think most people realize it.
Speaking of the carbide, what have you found so far? What do you expect to be the lifetime of one edge of your current cutting tools?
Well, we use one of our CI4 cutters, which is the diamond shaping, carbide insert number 4, CI4. And we'll turn about 750 handles on one cutter in our CNC lathe.
Okay.
But that's in a perfect world, man. That's,
right.
But in use, we tell people conservatively, you'll get several hours out of one edge.
Right.
I mean, we just kind of leave it at that. And, well, a lot of people, that's not enough for them to help them make their decision. And I'll tell them, one complete cutter will save you maybe 75 trips to the grinder versus a high-speed tool.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, so different people need the information presented differently. So.
Right, sure. And I'm curious, have you come up with any good tips for kind of keeping track of what are the dull edges? Now, when I'm talking about like a roughing tool where there's only the 4 edges, that's pretty easy. But specifically the finisher, it's a round tool. It's a round cutter. I can't tell when I rotate it. Have you come up with a good way to kind of keep track of what's dull and what's not?
Well, a lot of people don't know this, but our cutters are actually laser engraved. At least in the last 6 months, we laser engrave our logo on there, and we install it at the 12 o'clock position on the tool.
Okay.
And our intent is for the user to either rotate that cutter counterclockwise or clockwise, makes no difference, until they come back around to the logo.
I'm such an idiot. You're right. It's right there on the tool.
Yeah, and sometimes it's the obvious stuff that we have to educate people on the most, or what seems obvious to me.
Right. But you made it, so you're too close to it.
Exactly. The whole thing seems obvious to me, but
right.
It's not. And that's the other humbling part of this is learning when we haven't done a good job on a certain topic for our marketing materials.
Yeah.
We put all this blood and sweat into it and throw it out there, and people are like, well, crap, you didn't answer this question. I'm like, holy cow, So that's a learning process.
That is my day job, basically. I'm the director of marketing for a lumber company, and I'll spend hours and hours and up to an entire week on a brochure, and I pass it out, and they go like within 30 seconds. What about this? Oh man, son of a! I can't believe that.
Possibly the most important thing you should have covered.
Yeah, like forgetting to put the phone number on the homepage of the website. So I hear.
The website, yeah.
I've never done that. Well,
I heard.
I'm curious. Where do you recommend someone start with your tools? What's the?
I think most people ought to just start with a mini lathe. That way, you're not going to jump into a project bigger than you are, bigger than your skills are. And to me, it makes sense to use just the mini tools.
Right.
If you jump into doing a 12-inch bowl or a 20-inch bowl, and the odds are just against you. I mean, for that length of cutting time, you're going to do something wrong and run the project,
right.
Even with our tools. So, and even with hollow forms, all these years later, I just enjoy doing the little 3-4-inch hollow forms. I can go do one after supper if I'm turning.
Yeah.
If I'm demoing, I can do one in about an hour. I've been through the phase where I had to make the 20-inch bowls. And to tell you the truth, those things are hard to sell.
Yeah.
And even my mom finally, told me, she said, son, I ain't got room for no more of them big bowls. And
that's a good point.
When your mom tells you, it's time to, when your mom don't love you anymore.
Well,
I just think small stuff.
Forget about the fact that, making that bigger stuff requires big stock to start with. And it's not exactly easy to get your hands on unless you're, cutting down trees from your neighbor, or, going around after the storm and picking up those big logs. Whereas, I know the only thing I've turned with the hollers up to this point has just been small kind of, 4-inch, 12-quarter blanks, turned into the little kind of the Richard Raffin style ingrain box,
Yeah. Those are fun.
because I got a bunch of that stuff floating around. I use 12-quarter stock all the time for furniture, and you end up with a little 6-inch cutoff, and you can turn that into something. So I got all kinds of blocks like that. It's just easier. I have, I think, 4 or 5 hunks of wood that would turn into a decent hollow form vessel. But frankly, it's in such crazy figured beautiful wood that I'm afraid to touch it just yet. You don't want to screw that up yet. So
our latest article or ad in Woodcraft magazine, it says it's time to get out the good woods. And, I hear a lot of people say that they're using their good wood now because they have confidence.
yeah,
They had it on the shelf for 10 years and were always concerned about using it. So that's a pretty cool deal.
that's a good point.
Yeah, when I was doing the big bowls, I bought a 30-inch chainsaw. That was about $800. I bought a trailer to pull behind my truck. You got to have a place to put all them shavings, and just on and on and on. It's a monster.
Yeah, that's true.
Stuff.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
So you started to allude to this earlier when you recommend starting with kind of the smaller set of tools. The different lengths of tools that you sell, is it just as simple as the bigger the project, the longer the tool you need, or is there more to it than that?
It really is pretty much just that simple.
Okay, just kind of a leverage issue then.
It's kind of a leverage issue, and that's one thing right there, as we talked, that we haven't done a great job at educating the consumer on, because it just makes perfect sense to me. But the mini tools, we recommend you never go more than 2 inches over the tool rest.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of projects can I do? I do just about any spindle turning project, because I can always keep scooting the tool rest up close. But when I get into hollowing out a bowl or, something where I'd have to extend the tool out deeper, I need to have something more to hang on to. So I jump up to the mid-size tools.
Mm-hmm.
So I go 3 inches with those, and then 4 inches with the full-size tools. Now, a good thing about the mini and the mid-size tools, somebody might look at, well, I've got the mini tools, I don't need the mid-size tools. I don't know. I like the mini tools sometimes because I can pass them in front of my body. They're just nimble. I can feel the cut a little bit better. Sometimes I want a little bit longer to hang on to, but I don't want to go with the bigger cutter or the full-size tool.
Right.
So the cutter size on the mid-size tools sometimes make better sense than the full-size.
Sure.
And then the Pro tools are all the bigger. They've got the 20-inch handle. The tool bars are the same. But the 20-inch handle, we do that in Babinga. It's a lot heavier. Babinga dissipates vibration a fair amount better than maple. So if I'm at the lathe all day, I'm going to grab my Pro tools.
Sure.
They're just more comfortable at the end of 5 hours of turning.
Well, and I think what it comes down to, and as you say, you're so close to it, it's kind of hard to see these things. But, when I first bought my first Easy Rougher, I think you had 2 tools available. When I look at your catalog now, I mean, you've got 3 different sizes for all these different tools, and now you've got hollowers, and you've got a pin turning tool, and, there's a lot to choose from. So I know when I put out the video of that pepper mill I made, and I've actually got 3 more videos in the hopper that I need to push out using some of your other tools. I know the biggest question I got was, well, which one do I get first? Or what's the difference between mid, small, what do I go with? And, I think that's a sign of your success. You've got a lot of different tools now, but, I guess if I were to say anything, actually you've got a video on your site now, something like getting off to a good start or something like that.
Yeah.
If I may be so bold to make a recommendation, it might be a good idea to kind of do a quick, here are the sizes. Here's like you just said, don't go more than 2 inches over the tool rest with the mini. Step up and maybe walk through, here's an instance when I would switch to another tool. Because I think that people do get a little afraid that, now I got to get one of each size. And maybe, the bottom line, your bottom line certainly likes when people think that way, but, that's not the type of company you are. I think we don't want you to just go out and buy everything.
Not.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've got an unconditional money back policy, and the last thing I want to do is buy tools back from people.
Yeah, sure.
I got better things to do. So I don't want to oversell somebody. And it kind of keeps us all honest.
Right.
Where we don't oversell people. I mean, there's many times people have 5 tools in their hands at a show, and I'll talk to them. I'm like, buddy, you only need 3 after listening to them. So the mini tools I would choose if I just do small projects, goblets, wine stoppers, table legs. I choose the mid-sized tools if I do those projects plus mid-sized bowls. If I just do bowls, I'd pick full-size tools.
Right.
Because I don't need the small cutters necessarily on bowls to get down in the tight places.
That makes sense, yeah. And like you said, once you explained it, it makes perfect sense. Because it makes perfect sense all the time,
Be careful not to overwhelm the customer. I mean, we're advertising a simple system, and we've got 17 tools. Now, what is it? Is it simple or is it 17 tools? Well,
it's a good point, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, have you found that the actual height, I understand the whole height of the tool rest and getting aligned the cutter with the drive center, but have you found that the height of the lathe actually changes in using these tools as compared to traditional tools?
Good point. We like using these wood tools. We like to set the center line of the lathe, which is the point of your drive center or live center, no higher than the elbow.
Right.
1 to 2 inches below the elbow would be best.
Right. I can see that because I've got my lathe set up a little bit higher because obviously with a traditional tool, the handle is down and you raise the handle in order to engage that cutting edge to rub that bevel. And I've actually found when I've spent long periods of time at my lathe, I get tired faster because I'm holding my arm up higher because I've got that tool, basically in the same plane as the lathe. And unfortunately it's just a mini lathe. The lathe sits on a fixed cabinet, so I need to actually do some major renovation because I feel like I need to be a couple inches lower. Just wanted to make sure that wasn't just me.
No, you're right. It kind of crowds you and it causes your shoulders and neck muscles to tighten up.
Right.
I agree.
Well, one of the things that's kind of on the drawing board for me, and I'm really curious to see how the tools perform. I'll be sure to let you know, but I've just started designs for a treadle powered lathe, a continuous treadle lathe, meat powered lathe, in other words. And I'm really curious to see how well it performs. I can't see there being any difference. I mean, I'm not going to be turning at 3,600 RPMs, but I'd be really curious to see how it deals with a lower RPM or possibly inconsistent, infinitely variable speed lathe. That ought to be fun to play with.
Perpetually variable. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we've got a few customers with using those lathes, and they love them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's a museum that I volunteer at in the summers. We're only open in the summer, but we have an old Barnes Victorian era pedal lathe, similar to the one that Roy Underhill has in his shop right now. And I'm actually kind of excited to. It'll be a little anachronistic because it is supposed to be a Victorian museum, but hey, when nobody's looking, I'm going to grab one of the easy wood tools and see how it works on that thing.
That's the ultimate irony, I guess, is the right word. You're right.
Right. Foot-powered lathe and a modern carbide cutter, but what the heck?
That's like chrome wheels on your horse and buggy, yeah.
Hey, a chrome wheel on my treadle lathe. Now you're talking.
Yeah.
As long as it's got a laser and an iPod dock, I'm happy. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting right there while you're on that point. Chris Schwartz come down here when he was still at Popwood.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was a little nervous about Chris coming by here. He's a traditionalist. I really respect what he does and things he's done through the years. But I was worried, honestly, that this guy's going to come down here and make a mockery of me because we are kind of going forward with the technology.
Right.
And, but he didn't. I guess the point is there, I'm kind of flattered at how the traditionalists have embraced us and just the whole wood turning community. I'm not saying I felt like it'd be a harder fight. Believe me, it's been a plenty harder fight. But, and I think that just says a lot for our products, though, Shannon.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
And, in my experiences in talking with Chris over the years, I think he's the guy that you know, he loves the tradition and he loves kind of the historical aspects, but at the same time, he likes getting stuff done, you know? So if there's a tool that does a better job, and it's not necessarily traditional, I think he's going to be the first guy to adopt it. And if I remember correctly, he wrote a pretty glowing endorsement of you guys and then went and bought a set of tools, which, you know, we have what we call the Schwartz effect in woodworking. It's kind of like Oprah. You know, all he has to do is recommend a tool, and suddenly you've got, you know, orders coming out from left and right. So,
I bet we sold $10,000 worth of tools 2 days after that article.
That's fantastic. Well, actually, I think I bought a tool from you guys after that article. I think I bought my rougher, the first tool I got from you back then. So, yeah, it's something to be said about the right endorsement, you know?
Well, and that's what we all kind of do in life. I mean, we're looking for somebody else to try and help us figure things out. When you find somebody you can trust, it just saves you a lot of time. I mean, you don't have to go through all the research and let them do their job, and you just trust them. And we kind of built that trust with our customers, too. And I've had a lot of customers say, I don't care what your next product is. You send it to me in a box with an invoice, and I'll take it.
That's fantastic.
I said, I don't care if it's a butter knife or a hammer. You know, I'll take it. We take care of our customers, and we want them to be, you know, admitted some of them are older, but we want to be customers for 50 years.
Well, you know, you bring up an interesting point, because when I go and I look at, you know, some of the like your Facebook page where you got all kinds of photos, and that's really the only way I can keep track of where you are is checking to see what show you're at. And, you know, maybe it's just because of the photographs that have been put up there, but you've got a lot of kids working with your tools.
Well, and Donna just got on me about that. Well, not got on me, but she said, Craig, I need you to show the whole customer base we have. I'm like, honey, I only want to work with the kids, because they're the funnest. You know, I can poke fun at them, and they don't get upset if I tease them. And
that's a good point.
It gets kind of boring just talking to the adults. But that is it's not an unfair sampling, because we're getting, golly, thousands of kids in the tournament. We've got all kinds of schools calling us.
Oh, wow.
It's a huge honor to be a part of this. It's truly humbling.
That is so exciting.
It is.
Wow. You know, we just came out of something in the blogging community we were calling Get Woodworking Week. It was kind of the idea to try to get more and more people introduced to the craft, because, you know, as you know, there's no such thing as shop class anymore. And, you know, there's definitely an aging demographic that's interested in woodworking. And, you know, I'm kind of fighting that trend, because you know, most of the guys I know are in their late 20s and 30s. You know, maybe it's just because I'm in my late 30s and that's the only people I'm hanging out with, but there's an awful lot of us. But now I look back and I see, you know, these teenagers and younger that are really expressing an interest in it. And that's really exciting. You know, that's, you know, when you talk about customers 50 years from now, well, there's your customers, you know, that's really cool.
Oh, it's so exciting, the thought of getting these kids into wood turning.
Yeah.
And 20 years from now, they're calling me up and saying, hey, you remember back when? And look at all this stuff I made. And now I'm turning with my son. And your son's running your company. And if he wants to. I mean, we've got 2 boys, Samuel and Noah. They're, 15 and 12, respectively. Mm-hmm. You know, if they want to come into the company, that's their business. But anyway,
right.
I've had more people tell me at those demos, well, first of all, traveling, there is no glory. The only thing that keeps me going is when the people, after I've demoed for their kid, a lot of times I make them a baseball bat for the boys and a goblet for the girls. And if I got a stool handy, I'll sit the kids on the stool and give them some safety glasses. You'd think I'll give them a $100 bill when you give them safety glasses, you know. They're putting on the gear. And I'll make them a baseball bat. And their grandparents, our parents always say, I've never seen that kid sit so still and be so engrossed in anything. But sometimes I'll give them a little bowl that I made and tell them to catch their shavings. We don't want any on the floor.
Right.
So they'll run around and catch their shavings. And it just lets me know that there's so much opportunity here to get these kids, mine included, off the Nintendos and the phones and all that stuff. And here's another thing. Let's see, Wood World down in Texas, a great retailer of ours down there. We've also got some good craft stores down there. Well, we got several retailers in that area. But anyway, either Dallas or Houston, I can't remember. But they had a Cub Scout get-together down there, like 2,900 kids.
Wow.
Huge. Can you imagine? Yeah, smashed. Yeah. And they had all types of events over like a 3-day period. And Woodworld was good enough to take some lathes there. I didn't even know about that event until afterwards. But they set up pin turning with our little mini tools and had some mini lathes set up. They said they ran 670 kids through there, and they made pins. And he said the general consensus from these kids was the wood turning was the favorite event of theirs that they had ever done in Cub Scouts.
Wow.
Cub Scouts or Boy Scouts, or Scouts, whatever. Yeah.
Talk about humbling. That's fantastic.
Oh, dude, it's like, it gives me goosebumps just sitting here thinking about it. So now we got to work to get wood turning back as a merit badge. I don't think it's active anymore. But now the kids, they just got to have a lathe and 2 or 3 of our tools, and they can do their merit badge. They don't have to sharpen and all that stuff. And while we're right there, a lot of people think we're against traditional tools. I've had people confront me and say, "What are you?" I was like, "Buddy, no, you've read something into it. We're about wood turning."
Right.
And how can you be against these kids and women and people in wheelchairs getting into wood turning? How are you looking at that as a bad thing?
Yeah, no kidding.
And best I can tell, we haven't eaten into the traditional tool sales. The companies we deal with tell us traditional tool sales grew 6% last year.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah, that's the reports I get. Now, we're selling a lot of tools, a lot more than a lot of them, but still yet we haven't taken their business. I predict their business may sound bold, but their business will grow because of ours. So everybody wins.
Yeah.
That's
well, you know, that's an interesting point. You're answering some of the questions I had written down before getting on the phone with you. But, you know, I know when I started playing around with them, I took to them like a duck to water because call me a casual turner. I turn more for furniture parts. And then, you know, I always call, you know, from about October to the end of the year, lathe season, because it's just getting ready for, you know, little Christmas gifts here and there. And I think you saw the video I did of a salt and pepper shaker using your easy finisher. I mean, those last 3 months of the year, it's nothing but making gifts and little projects here and there. But I'm not I consider myself to be more of a furniture maker than a wood turner. And as you probably know, wood turners are wood turners, and then there's the rest of these guys that are woodworkers. It's a very kind of separate demographic. But I always wondered, what has the response been from that kind of more dedicated traditional turning market?
Well, it's been, again, it's the guys like you. Let's say you learn traditional tools, and October through December you turn. Yeah. All right, you're gonna lay them down. You're gonna step back up to the lathe next October. Oh my, that's a whole nother set of circumstances. Or what you knew, it's not like riding a bicycle.
Yeah.
So our tools are all the more attractive to guys like you that are a casual turner.
Right.
You're after the results, and you can pick them up 5 years from now. I say, what was it? Oh, flat and level. There we go. Making them peppermint.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, and that's so key because, you know, I would have, you know, a spindle gouge catch and completely ruin a piece or something like that. And it gets a little frustrating. And I remember I'd set the tool down and say, you know, I really want to get better at this. When the famous promise, when I have more time, I'm going to focus on my turning. Well, you know how that happens. And 10 years go by and, you know, you've used the lathe, maybe we'll just say, you know, 30 times in the last 10 years. And
there is no more time, Shannon.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, I mean, I wrote a blog post on my site and I said, you know, it's made wood turning fun again. You know, when I first picked up my lathe, and it was that there is a little bit of that instant gratification. That's probably why the kids love it so much, because you turn out a project in an hour and the finish is dry and you're ready to go. And there's something truly fascinating about watching something square become round at high speed, you know? But then it got to the point where maybe as I was trying to kind of push myself, and, you know, I wanted to do more than just make pins. You want to start making bowls, and then you want to get into hollow forms, and hollow forms were just killing me. And, you know, you'd have stuff come flying off the chuck at high speed because you get a catch or whatever. And then, you know, I picked up some of your hollowing tools and made a little ingrained box in like an hour. The first time it came out perfectly, and it was just like, this is incredible. Now I want to go back and play with my lathe some more. So, I guess I am just a kid, really, when you think about it. I just want to go and play some more. So, how can that be bad? How can anybody be upset by that?
I don't know. But, I guess you could say there's always gatekeepers in every market segment. And the good thing that they do, and the good thing that I do as a gatekeeper in certain market segments I buy in, is they keep the crap off the market. We need those people for when there's dangerous tools or inferior tools or a company that doesn't have the values that's needed. We don't need them around anymore.
Yeah, I agree.
We can't just blindly embrace all new products.
Sure.
That's not good for the market or the buyer or anybody. So, we're willing to take our licks, and people can say whatever they want, but it also keeps us on our toes. We do not discount people like that whatsoever.
Yeah.
What can we learn from this? How can we get better? We don't believe that we're done by any means, and we're constantly trying to improve our carbide, our finishing process. That's my nature. I can't help it. I wish I could some days. I wish I could leave well enough alone, but I just can't.
Well, I think I speak for most of your customers when I say I appreciate that you can't, because I've seen a change from the first Easy Rougher I bought. What was that? 3 years ago, I guess, maybe. Shortly after Chris wrote that article, and then the mid-size hollowers that I just got from you. I mean, there is a difference in the fit and finish on those. And, now I haven't played with a hollower enough to be able to tell you if the carbide's that much different, but probably is.
Well, the carbide has improved. We haven't made a big deal about pointing that out, and even right now we're going through another improvement on the carbide, and we're trying to find some scientific methods for quantifying how much better. We don't want to just say, "Hey, these are better."
Yeah, true.
We want to say, we want to qualify it with something, and so we're working on edge life testing methods.
Well, I got to tell you, the thing that's really exciting about that is normally I'd hear that and go, "Oh man, now I got to go buy all new tools." No, I just got to buy new cutters. That's fantastic.
Oh, it's going to fit right on there. Yes,
that's fantastic.
Well, and while you're right there, we might touch on this. I have, numerous customers come up to me and they're like, "Man, I've got a pocket full of traditional tools. I can't just throw them away and go to your tools."
Yeah.
You don't have to throw them away, but what you do need to do is go forward. And embrace technology. There's no other thing in your life that you're going to choose to do things the hard way when there's something more simple.
Right.
Nothing. So,
hey, and if the traditional tool industry is still as strong as you say it is, you could probably find somebody to sell those old tools to.
Well, and don't get rid of them. You'll grab one to make a little cut here, and honest to goodness, Shannon, there's days, not so much here recently because I don't turn when I'm at home. It's only when I'm demoing.
Right.
But there's days that I'll pick up a bowl gouge. I mean, there's just something romantic about it.
Sure.
Something traditional about it. And I fully realized that we had built this company on the shoulders of all those other companies. If it wasn't for those tools to get us to where we're at, I would still be working back at the tobacco factory. So I don't want people to think anything other than how we really feel.
Well, I think that's a good point to give you kind of my parting question here is, so what is the future of Easy Wood Tools? What's next?
Well, like I say, a lot of that's up to our customers. I don't think we've actively told our customers that, hey, tell us what you want and we'll put it on the list. But I think after they do a little business with us, they realize that we're open to growth and we're open to suggestions and things like that. So a lot of that will be guided by our customers. A lot will be guided by our retailers. A lot of it will be guided by our capacities, both capital and human resources and facility, things like that. But I do see quite a few more products. I mean, there's a couple of specific turning tools that kind of have a gap in our lineup for right now. and then just other devices that a wood turner use. I can assure you this: we'll never take another product and just tweak it a little bit and call it our own. I mean, if it comes from Easy Wood Tools, it needs to be completely different, and it needs to solve a totally different set of problems than anybody's ever looked at. So,
right. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah, I mean, we just need to be innovative. It will always be American made as long as I'm driving the boat. Every screw we use, every piece of sandpaper, wood, everything. We make huge efforts for it to be American made, American sourced.
That's nice.
So, you know, if we can make it in America and we can fit it in our building and we got the people to do it and it's what our retailers want, I've got actually 23 products on the drawing boards right now.
Wow.
I'm dying to tell you what they are, but I can't be responsible to my company and my retailers if I do.
No, I wasn't expecting you to give away secrets.
Right. But we've only just begun, I guess you might cap it off with.
Well, if I can throw my recommendation in there for some sort of narrow parting tool, I'll just throw that out there, because that's the gap, I think.
We won't not do one. How's that?
I like that. That's great. Well, you know, the Easy Detailer has been, it was definitely a welcome addition, but it's still got a diamond cutter on it. And, you know, if I could get that square aspect that I've got on my Easy Rougher, you know, in a 1/4 inch or less, or 1/8 of an inch wide, I don't know that I ever would reach for my traditional turning tools at that point. Because the one thing I'm still sharpening heavily is my parting tools.
Yeah, that's still a gap, and that sets up a new set of challenges just on physical limitations. Trying to screw an 1/8 inch wide cutter onto a bar
good point.
Not possible.
Yeah, very true.
So we're looking at it's but we've got that solved. It's just that's on our list. We're just not quite to the top of our list just yet.
Understandable. Well, you know, this has been great. I actually bent your ear a little bit longer than I wanted to today. I realize you're a busy guy, so you know, I'm looking forward to following you guys and see what else you come out with. And I know there are a lot of people, at least in the circles I run in, that have really started to take notice of what's going on down there. So congratulations. I think I read the marketing material correctly. You're now the largest manufacturer of turning tools in the U.S., right?
Well, based on all the data that we can find, if somebody's larger, they've done a poor job at selling tools.
Well,
I don't know, you know, but we've got a lot of incredible people behind us. I wish I could take all the credit myself, and I'm not trying to sound more humble than I am, but we've got some great customers. Our retailers, they pay on time, which allows me to not have to go into debt on a bunch of junk, and it's just been a great. It's just really unbelievable.
That's great.
Customers, the magazines have embraced us. Guys like you recognize us for what we are, and it's really cool.
Well, it's great. You're living the dream. I like it.
Yep. All right, buddy.
Well, again, Craig, I appreciate the time, and it's been a long time in making this happen, so thank you very much.
Hey, thanks for being persistent. I'll see you.
All right. See you later.